So hello and welcome, everyone. I'm happy to be here, excited to be here today. My name is Marcin Rabiza. I am an IBM engineer and a PhD student in philosophy from Poland. And my PhD research project focus is on the relationship between agency attribution in human-machine interactions and AI explainability. So today's presentation, today's talk called Pointed Network Notions of Artificial Intelligence Agency works as a theoretical input for my project as well as its starting point. So as the project is about to start just this year, I would be grateful for any comments or remarks or questions you may wish to submit in order to help me put it on the right track. Okay. So short agenda, and also I need to keep the timing right. Okay, and the introduction is already behind us. So let me start by saying that at the very basic level, at this fundamental level, I think we think of AI systems in two ways. So on the one hand, intelligent agents are considered objects of our actions. So these are our tools. We use them to achieve our goals in a more feasible way. But on the other hand, there are some good reasons for perceiving AI systems not only as objects, but also as sui generis subjects of actions. So the issues associated with AI personhood and related issues. For example, these reasons might be practical reasons. So high operational autonomy of AI agents. Also the decision making that is moving more and more from a human user to artificial agent, and human-like designs, and also the robots are more and more engaged with human-machine interactions within our environment, for example, social robots. So research on this subjective and agential status of AI is, I think, relatively new in philosophy, but perhaps is, in my opinion, is the most important field in the contemporary philosophy of AI. So although various perspectives in this area can be distinguished, such as AI legal status, moral responsibility of robots, machine consciousness, this might be your fields actually of research, but my focus is on this lower level, so on AI agency and how we perceive this agency in interactions. So it seems I did some literature review in order to prepare my PhD project, so my PhD proposal. So it seems to me that there can be distinguished two main ways of thinking about agency. So I call them point theories of agency or point networks of agency, and network theories of agency. And let's explore that idea a bit. So in point notions of agency, they investigate agency as a trait of or a feature of individual actors. And here in these theories, agency is defined using actors' internal features. This is also quite known for standard structuration theory of agency. So we can describe this P-type, point-type agency according to attributes likely to be considered internal, such as intentionality, mental states, desire belief, volitions in humans especially, but also drives in animals, individuality, activity source, or skilled coping, for example, in robotics, motorical schemata, and so on. So I think this point reasoning of agency is typical for the studies on issue of agency attribution. So how we perceive machines, intelligent machines in our interactions. So you can see this little diagram here. And it's typical for AI research, actually. AI researchers tend to call AI entities, AI systems, artificial agents. And just the basic idea, the basic model is that they place artificial agents in in the external environment and let it interact with it via two channels. So it gets perceptions of environment and takes some actions towards the environment. And I think one can see that such a model to some degree resembles many cases of our simple human or even animal behavior. So what I mean is that prima facie, we see other agents, human agents, in the same way. So in a similar way, they interact in the environment, and we can see they have these perceptions of environment and take some actions towards it. But by the principle, we do not know anything about their inner workings. So I mean, we don't know anything about their minds, their mental states, their qualia. So this point agency indicators, I would say, we do still perceive them as agential. And maybe the hypothesis here is, well, I think it's already proved that the similar story goes for intelligent machines, that research shows that users tend to attribute agency to AI agents, for example, chatbots. And in my literature references, at the end, you probably can see some publications on that matter. So I think that this is the first idea to be explored in a PhD research project. So I think there's some kind of mechanism for agency attribution, a mental mechanism. I called it agential stance. So here attribution can be seen as a strategy of building stable interpretations of phenomena of the external world by unconsciously classifying objects as autonomously agential causal actors. Of course, it is inspired by Daniel Dennett's intentional stance theory, but as I said, here we are operating at the lower level. So I do not assume any intentionality in machines. I just think about agency and perceiving this agency. So, but not only philosophy, but also this is inspired, for example, by works of cognitive psychologists, such as there is a theory of Baron Cohen's intentionality detector theory, or lately Gergely-Chibra theological stance. So my hypothesis is to be validated in a PhD research project is that adopting this kind of agential stance and perceiving AI systems as agential, regardless of the actual ontological status of this agency, might be epistemically relevant and instrumentally rational in human-machine interaction. And I mean that it might be just useful in a short word. So it might, for example, improve the user experience, and it might foster this human-machine interaction. So this is to be validated in the project. Okay, should go on more quickly. So on the other hand, we can observe also an increasing trend towards network theories of agency. Increasing trend, I mean, in research, in literature, in publications. So these are kind of theories that investigate agency not as a trait of an individual actor, but as an attribute of the relationship of the entire networks. And research here is focused on the flow of agency between AI and human actors. So agency is to be exercised not in the singular individual agent, but you can see agency only in an interaction in a network, in more complicated, more sophisticated relationship of many factors. So, for example, you can Google such concepts as shared agency, collective agency, relational, digital, symbiotic agency. Or interesting theory, double dense of agency model. So these are theories that explores this intertwined nature of human and machine agency. So in order to expose the issue of attributed agency in human-machine interaction, I came up with a concept of what I called interactional agency. So here, agency is understood not as an inherent property of an individual actor, but as a relation of external forces and a fluid process rather than an attribute, rather than as an attribute that the subject possesses. So, but I mean also it is exercised not only by humans and machines participating in networks, but also on the deeper level. So between AI designers. So AI agency for me here is consists of AI designers, machine learning algorithms, training and test data, hardware architectures, human users, and so on. So everything is an agent, but agency can be only seen for a network. This is, of course, inspired by Karen Barratt's work on agential realism and Bruno Latour actor network theory tradition. And my hypothesis is that this interactional optics may lead to weakening the agential stance, as well as to impede AI agency perception. So the more you think about agency as a feature of a network, the less likely you will be, the less likely you will attribute or ascribe agency to AI agent. So the common denominator enabling creating maybe the general framework I will like to develop to investigate this both different, very different approaches, very different optics is associated with AI explainability. So just very shortly, in AI design based on machine learning algorithms, we often encounter this black box problem. And a black box is a system which can be viewed in terms of its inputs and outputs, but we do not know anything about its internal workings, inner workings. So input can be training data or test data, output can be prediction or classification, but the inner the box itself is opaque. I mean, in that sense that here even AI designers cannot explain why an AI arrived at the specific decision based on such inputs. So I think it might be the reason we see AI agents as autonomous agents, AI systems as autonomous agents. So we perceive intelligent machines in terms of inputs and outputs, and not in terms of their inner workings. Anything internal lies under the hood of this black box. But the same is with people, with human agents. So we can observe how they interact with environment, what are their inputs and their outputs, but we are not sure about what is going on under the hood here. Of course, nowadays it changes, because we have cognitive science research, neuroscience research. So we are able to say something new about mental states and inner workings of human brain. But by the principle, within an interaction, we do not know what is going on. So having little to no knowledge of AI agents' internal features, we are likely to classify them as autonomous agents, as well as because it fosters predicting its behavior and building other stable assumptions about their nature. So the third hypothesis is that there is a kind of dialectical relationship between perceived agency and their explainability, or even it might be even negative correlation. So I mean, the more system is explainable, the more we know about its internal workings, and it is transparent and interpretable, the less likely we will fall for this anthropomorphization process. With less likely we will attribute agency to it. So this hypothesis sum up my theoretical input for a project. So I just wanted to outline it a bit more, and I'm curious about your comments here. So in general, the problem lies between this explainability, the idea of explainability, and theories of non-human agency. So I would like to answer the question: how do different notions of agency influence attribution of agency? What is relationship between explainability and this attribution? And I would like to the main goal is to expose and conceptualize the problem of AI agency and its relation to explainability, but also to identify the premises and epistemic assumptions that we adopt or we carry in thinking about human-machine interaction. So just one more time, 3 hypotheses I would like to explore. So the first one is about agential stance, and that it might be instrumentally rational to see AI agents as agential in some situations, that as it might foster human-machine interaction and improve user experience. The second is about this interactional optics that may weaken the agential stance and impede these perceptions. And the third one is that there is a negative correlation, that there might be the correlation between explainability and perceived or attributed agency. So as the project is about to start, I will be, of course, this is philosophical project, so I will be using philosophical methods mostly. So critical analysis of literature, analysis of theories, also philosophical explication of agency and explainability notions. But I would also like to add a part of empirical research. It is known for example, popular in experimental philosophy. For example, to conduct a survey study and check this third hypothesis, for example, to see how people interact with explainable systems, and if they perceive them as agential in comparison to less explainable systems, let's say. So this is kind of bringing together conceptual methods of philosophy and empirical tools of psychology and cognitive science. Okay, and I hope it will help me to produce some interesting conclusions and results. So first of all, I would like to come up with conclusions regarding meaning and scope of these epistemic assumptions we carry about AI agency and human-machine interaction. So this is of course the area of philosophy, and I hope it will contribute to this philosophical branch of research, but also conclusions made on AI explainability and human-machine interactions. So what may foster it, what may impede AI agency attribution. So these kind of conclusions may foster research in human-computer, human-machine interactions, and improve AI user experience, for example, in more interdisciplinary projects later on. So actually, that's all for today from me. I have also selected bibliography references, of course, not all, but some more interesting. And thanks for your time, for your attention. Let me know what do you think. As I said, it is just about to start, so I value your input. Thanks.
I would say thank you. Who would like to give any questions? Thank you, Marcin. I see no questions. You are the best.
I have a question. I have a question.
But we have Robin. Yes,
my hand is up. Yes, my hand is up. So, so explainability. If you interpret explainability as meaning a trace through an execution of a program, then you're talking in terms of Turing computability, and of course that's deterministic. So, how could it be otherwise? How could explainability not reduce agency? Do you have some other meaning of explainability in mind that leaves the question open?
Okay, thanks. I see your point. I don't know. For example, I can imagine explainability that not reduce this attribution. For example, if we take humans, because I think of humans as a similar black boxes. So maybe if you do know how the system works. For example, if we are able to compare human inner workings and AI inner workings, and then maybe we can come up with conclusion that the AI both agential as the inner workings are, for example, similar. This is just hypothetical, but maybe it is provable to say that maybe artificial neural networks works exactly the same in case of human and in case of a machine. So then explainability may be not may not have this negative impact on attribution. But I don't know actually. So this is the field to actually further research. But I also don't think that it was already it was already researched in the past. So I didn't find many publications on that topic, and I didn't find any study that would take explainability. Well, maybe just it is too new, or explainability is taken for granted for researchers right now. So I didn't find anything that would be that would associate explainability with perceptions.
There should be some philosophical literature on explainability that might apply in epistemology.
Yeah.
I look forward to that.
Plenty of it. Thank you
Okay.
very much. That was a presentation of your plan. We hope next time you can also present us more results, but good start. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Very short remark. The following publication might be useful to you. The title of the paper is Actors, Agents, and Oracles. Very simple title. Actors, Agents, and Oracles.
Thank you, Professor Bergin. So, any more voices in discussion?
I had it. Thank you, Professor Borgin.